What is up, gentlemen, and welcome back to Making Men Academy. Today, I got a fun episode for you guys. As you can see, for those of you who are watching, I've got this crooked microphone and it's not quite the most polished setup ever. That's okay, because I'm focusing on actually just getting episodes out there instead of having them look nice. I'm actually surprised I'm even doing this on video, but it's the first time I've had energy for anything other than just an audio recording on my voice memos, on my phone, on a walk that I just don't even end up publishing. So today, we're going to look at, I recorded, all right, let me back up a little bit. I recorded an hour episode, an entire hour, this whole episode. And then I went back and I was like, man, I understand the message, but I got interrupted a couple times and it just wasn't clear. It wasn't clear. There wasn't clarity. So for the sake of clarity, even though it takes more time, I'm going to re-record it. And what I did was I took the transcript of that episode, I stuck it into ChatGPT, and I had it crunch it into what I was actually trying to say. So instead of trying to edit all the random stuff out in order to increase the clarity, I just had it do it for me based on what I had already recorded of over an entire hour. And then now I'm going to read you guys that basically because it's taking what I was saying and it's helping me to say it a little more clearly. So a lot of the things in here are just things I said, and it's got sound bites. And then this is really just going to help it flow smoother. And my goal is to keep this under 30 minutes, okay? Oh man, it's been so long since I've done anything like this. It feels good. It feels really good. It feels amazing to actually have the energy to do it and to have the excitement to do it too. I've been so just drowned out on work and school and life that I haven't had any energy for myself outside of those times. And so I spent the whole day working through college stuff today, and this is my reward. I'm going to get to record this episode for you guys. So let's hop into this. Today's topic, private integrity versus public impact, or I should say private integrity and public impact. This is really cool. And I'm thinking about this topic, the topic of your private life versus your public life, and how your private life directly influences your public life based on two things. Firstly, yesterday was the first time I went on a run in a year, an entire year. I've gone on maybe one or two quote unquote runs since I got COVID last January. And now here we are. It's February again. And I went from having COVID in January, late January, early February, to then continuing to get sick. After that, I had COVID, it screwed me up. Then I got sick again and I ended up in bed rest. And then from bed rest, I was not allowed to do any sort of exercise after that. That was a hard period of time for me, just being stuck in bed. I just couldn't get out of bed. My body didn't have the ability to do it. And then I was able to get to the doctor. I had a scary episode in there. Landed me in the hospital for a little bit. Not inpatient, thankfully, outpatient hospital stuff. But it was bad. And they told me I couldn't exercise. That lasted for 3 months. For 3 months, I wasn't allowed to do any sort of intense exercise. I was able to kind of walk around, but I couldn't push myself. No pushing for 3 months. That was the weirdest feeling that I've had. Because it felt to me like the very thing that I loved most was being stripped away. I like being a competent person, and that was taken away from me, it felt like, inside of the season. The second thing, and so I've had to come back from that, and now I'm at a point where I'm able to start working through it again. I'm able to get back to exercising, back to my running, and back to the things that I love doing to keep my body healthy, which helps keep my mind healthy, and which helps to inspire me to keep my spirit healthy too, because they're all connected. The second thing is that it's the Winter Olympics right now. And the Winter Olympics, I love the Olympics just to begin with. I think they're so fun. My family and I have really been enjoying figure skating. And it's something that I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. That looks like so much fun. A lot of these guys are my age figure skating out here. And I'm like, that looks like a lot of fun. But you know what? It's okay. God has other plans. So we've been watching the Olympics. And it's so amazing to see these athletes perform and do things. And I saw a funny post that was saying, I'm out here watching figure skating. I'm like into figure skating now, but it's like, I'm watching figure skating. And I wish that before the Olympics start, all these competitors getting on the ice, that they'd have a normal person just go out there and do the stuff that these guys are trying to do, just so we could see how much better and how amazing these athletes really are. Because you got so many good competitors out there. So today, in light of those two things, my sickness and where I've been since I've been off the radar, and secondly, what these athletes do when they're not literally on Olympic ice, in the performance itself, what have all of us been doing? What have you been doing? That's a good question. Private integrity and our public impact. Are you the kind of man who gets back up? The core idea here is that life's going to knock you down, and the real question is, are you the kind of man who will get back up? Are you the kind of man who has gotten back up? Or have you been the kind of man who gets back up in situations, and will you continue to be? Or do you need to become the kind of man who will get back up after you've been knocked down? That answer is built in private. You cannot do this in public. That is an in private thing that you have to build, because your private integrity determines your public impact. So let's talk like the comeback principle. Since my first run over a year, right? I went from doctor ordered bed rest to now I'm actually working through zone 2 cardio. I'm back at the point now, this for context, okay? Zone 2 cardio, the idea of it is that it is a state that is most easily measured by you being able to hold a conversation while exercising. You can more or less comfortably hold a conversation with the person exercising next to you while you're going and you're running or you're cycling or swimming. And it's different for each sport. Like the zone 2 of one sport won't cross to zone 2 of another sport. It's just that way because it's conditioning that I'm not going to get into. So for me, running, right, you have like sitting, you have walking like a sloth, you have normal walking, then you've got, your power walking, your prancercising, and then you have actual running. I'm in zone 2, so it's more like a little shuffle. Like you're shuffling down the road, you're really like getting into it, but you're not actually good at it. So that's what it looks like. It's like, wow, this person has a long way to go. And that's zone 2 cardio. It's really good for you though, because it's about sustainability. Again, not the point. But, all right, I had to take an entire year, or I should say about half a year, 6 months, maybe a little more than 6 months now, 7 months, maybe getting close to 8 months, where I just couldn't do anything. And I could just walk, and walking was okay. And going to work was just, because I have a more of a manual labor job right now, that was so hard. I could barely do it because I had just gone from bed rest to now I'm trying to do manual labor work. Like doesn't go well. And I was doing it 40 hours a week too. So I survived. I did it. It was hard, but I had built inside of myself this principle of coming back, of making the choice every day to do it, even though it sucks, and I wasn't stupid about it. I was smart to watch myself physically, but I took the time I needed at home to care for myself, get extra sleep, use a foam roller, get myself stretched out and doing the things I need to do. And so now we transition to the idea of the Winter Olympics, and all of these things are visible proof of long-term dedication. My ability to go to zone 2 cardio now, and the fact that I was able to do it as fast as I was compared to other people who I've known who have had the same struggles, and their comeback time has been so much longer, 1 year, if not 2 years, versus a couple, like half a year, was built on the fact that I've been a solid, stable runner for the past 5 years. And that's just been what I do. If I have free time, that's what I'm doing. If I'm not writing or making music or making a podcast or, studying something, so a lot of stuff goes into that. But are you building evidence that you're the kind of man who gets back up? Are you doing that? Do you have a history, catalog of history, like a files that you can flip through to look back and say, this is who I am. This is what I do. I have done this, and so I know I can do it again in the future. Are you that kind of guy? The question here is external versus internal standards. There are two types of standards. There's external standards, which are things like job expectations, school deadlines, and team requirements. And then there's internal standards, which are things like your personal discipline, fitness goals, and your spiritual life. External standards are enforced onto you. They are just something that you have to do because someone else told you to, and you don't get an option. If you want to succeed in that environment, that is what you do. Those are external standards applied to us. Internal standards are applied by us. We are the ones who are applying those standards to ourselves. Internal standards require integrity. The definition of integrity is doing in private what you would do in public. Your real life is your private life. Because how many people do we know about from, you got church scandals, you've got Hollywood, all these examples of humans being sinful people, and they have these massive scandals because their private life was not the actual real version of what they were portraying in their public life. Their public life was one thing, it was a lie. Their private life was something completely different. I mean, right now we've got like the Epstein files coming out and everything, and whoa, what a big deal, Like, that's a problem. It's a serious issue. I'm not discrediting that that's not a serious issue. It is a point in case of the fact that that kind of stuff happens behind closed doors, and that is a problem. That's a good example here. So, why does our private life matter biblically? Here's the thing. One of my favorite verses is Isaiah 41:10, and it says, "Fear not, for I am with you. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." So we know that God is right here with us all the time. He sees everything that we're doing. He knows us because he created us. So there's a level of accountability there, because even when no one else sees what we're doing in private, God does. And then there's also this encouragement that he is going to help us in the things that we are doing. One of the areas this applies to most, because think about how much time do you spend in private versus in public? And how much easier is it to do things in private than it is in public? If you're working 40 hours a week, that's where you are, but how about the rest of the time you're not at work, when you're at home? There's a lot of stuff that can go on and can happen, that you can choose to do with your time. So, God strengthens us internally first, and then we'll look at Daniel. Daniel is a wonderful example of his personal, private life reflecting inside of his public life. Daniel was chosen by the king, by God really. He was chosen by King Nebuchadnezzar as an exile from his country, Israel, had been conquered, destroyed, and then all the Israelites were taken from Israel over to Babylon and made to be slaves and live in Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar chose Daniel and 3 other guys that they were going to be like his advisors as far as it pertained to the Jewish people. So you got Daniel, who every single day goes to his window facing towards Jerusalem, and he prays to God every single day. Opens the window, there's Jerusalem over there in that direction, and he's praying to God, Lord, and then he gives his prayer. The people around Daniel saw this life that he lived, and they saw the favor that he had and the gifts that he had from God that were given to him, and the credit that he gave God about those gifts, his ability to interpret dreams and have wisdom, and they were jealous of him. And I've had the same exact thing happen at my work, where people who are above me, like there's me, and then there's the people above me, and then the people above them, they are the ones that are impressed by me, and it's the people in the middle who are jealous because I came in, I did good work, and the people above I have found favor with. And they don't like that because it took them longer, they don't have the same work ethic, and it just is a reflection that reflects poorly on them when it's compared to my ethic and the way that I do things. So I've experienced this in my job setting, in my personal life, or in my public life, job setting. I have experienced this kind of thing, and this is exactly what happened to Daniel. And when I started this job, it was really impressed upon me that my position here was to be like Daniel. Daniel was not the king, he was advisor to the king. So first off, limited power, limited reach and spread, but very, very high. I shouldn't say limited reach and spread, just limited authority, but very, very high influence. And no matter where you are, you have a high influence inside of your environment. You can change that environment. So Daniel, he was faithful in private. He was consistent in his prayer, and his enemies ended up using his integrity against him. They made the king sign, they tricked the king into signing a thing that said anyone who prays to any god other than King Nebuchadnezzar for X amount of days is going to get killed. And that happened. And then they did that knowing this was premeditated. They caught Daniel, quote unquote. They already knew he was going to be doing this. They caught him praying and said, look, Daniel has been praying to his God, not to you. And you signed this and you can't take it back. And therefore he has to die. And King Nebuchadnezzar was crushed. I'm sorry, this wasn't Nebuchadnezzar. This was a different king. King Nebuchadnezzar came after. Wow. Anyways. Yeah. So the other king, whose name I don't remember, who came before, he was crushed because he was actually like friends with Daniel at this point. And he fasted and he was sad and he let it happen. And he was like, Daniel, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. And then God preserved Daniel through that, because God had his plan in mind. So Daniel was faithful in private. He was consistent in his prayer. They used it against him, but he did not compromise. He never compromised. He kept that private life exactly how he had it, because he was not going to change the standards that had been set for him by God, that he had decided to devote himself to. Jesus says, if you love me, you will follow my commands. You will follow my laws. The things that I say for your benefit, you will do. And in this case, he's just praying. He's praying and asking God for things. And then they still use that against him. So faith that survives suffering is real faith. The Bible talks about this. Faith without works is dead. Means that if you claim you have faith, but your public life does not show it, your private life, even more importantly, does not show it, then all you have are a bunch of empty words. Because if you really loved Jesus, if you really had this faith in Jesus, you would follow his commands. Like David said, you would learn to love his laws and his precepts because you see the benefit that they have for you. All right, so the next thing is the apostles. Think about the apostles. They're another good example. And then we'll move on. But they didn't burn out. They did not recant. They never recanted their claims, and they died for what they believed in. They died for it, Peter was crucified upside down, and he requested, they were just going to crucify him normal. He's the one who requested he be crucified upside down because he didn't want to go out the same way Jesus did. He didn't want to have the same symbolic death that Jesus had. He was like, I'm not at that level. That is not me. That is only Jesus. And so to his very death, his last wish of how he should die was still in accordance with Jesus being his Lord and his Savior and his King over him. Man, all of the apostles, they were beheaded, they were murdered, stoned, beaten, sent to an island to die, and then they didn't die like John, so then they got killed in gruesome, gory ways. Even when the Jews were persecuting them, they held a council and said, all right, these guys are still causing problems. We thought killing Jesus would fix this, but it hasn't. It's made it worse. And one of the guys was like, look, you know how all these other people who have come through and claimed to be the Messiah, they come in, they claim to be the Messiah, just like Jesus did, but then they burn out, they fizzle out, they all die or something happens to them, and then it's gone. The cult just fizzles away, just like that. He says, if that is the case with these men, then the same thing will happen. God will take care of it. God will snuff them out, and we don't need to worry about it. And that appeased the people because he really was like, okay, I'm believing this. I see this. And so he was advocating for them in that way. And that was true. And that was a very wise thing. It might even say that God had impressed that on him to say, but I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. So we see that the apostles lived the same life. Daniel lived this same lifestyle that I am living, and that in a non-biblical context, the athletes at the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics are living, and that I am living in a non-biblical context as well. So let's talk about the real dream. For me, I stuck this also into ChatGPT the other day, and I said, look, I want to be an all-star athlete, music sensation, witness for Christ. But here's the thing. That's not realistic. And so what I asked it to do after a lot of praying and distilling it down into that, like that's what I want out of my life. That would be the most joyful thing I could do with my life. That is joyful in a worldly sense, not like the peace that passes all understanding and the joy that comes from Christ, just like pure fun. I was like, that's just not realistic, So what I had it do was take what I had been meditating and praying about, and I said, look, I want you to, help me reshape this mindset and help work through this with me to make a new mindset about this. Because this is what I have determined through prayer and reading God's word and talking with other disciples around me, not like other people around me who can lead me and help me to grow and hear God's voice through them. That's what I arrived at. And so here's what it said. It said, all right, quote, I want to be an all-star athlete, music sensation, witness for Christ. Think about for a second your dreams, your aspirations, the things you want to do with your life. Maybe they aren't realistic. Maybe they are. Like, I have a friend, he's perfectly fine to go to college. He's done amazing in college, made it through a very hard degree that most people don't make it through. And he's just going to get a job and he's going to be happy, He wants to get married and that's his next step in life. But he focused on the degree before focusing on that because he's got his priorities in order. He knew what he wanted to do before he even got to college. There's a big college debate, but like he's just an example that not everyone's dreams are the same dreams as mine, okay? But the same principle still applies. You could never want any sort of public stage and still have this principle apply to you. Because here's the deeper truth. For me, this looks like athleticism equals the discipline that is required. The musician is the creative expression that I have and want to give to the world. And the witness that I desire to give to people is my courage and integrity for God that I have based on my testimony about what he has done in my life. And so we shift that from a spotlight to stewardship. Now, stewardship means that something has been given to me that is not mine, and I am in charge of taking care of it for the owner of this thing. That could be money, that could be land, or in our case, that could be our gifts and our talents, the things that God has given to us physically, and our bodies, okay? Our time, treasure, and talents. We are to steward these because they were given to us. They are not ours, and we create something beautiful for them, out of them, for God, because they are his. There's the parable of the talents. Go read the parable of the talents. I believe it's in the book of Matthew. So we got to focus on, let's see if I can get through this. Dang, I'm fading. I'm tired. I studied all day, like I said. I got out and did some exercise, and now I'm here. Whew. All right. We're focusing on our identity over outcome. Instead of, I need to be famous to matter, adopt, I will be disciplined, creative, and faithful wherever I am. There was examples set of this by both Jesus and Paul and other people in the Bible. David is a good example. Really, any character you read about in the Bible who is not like an anti-hero character, these people, especially in the Davidic line, where you read Abraham, David, Abraham, David, Jesus himself, you read about these guys, and you look at how long Noah, you look at how long they had to wait. Decades. Literally, they waited decades until God fulfilled the purpose that he had for them in their lives. But what happened in that time? This is very important. This comes from the book of Acts. We've been doing a discipleship, a series on the book of Acts at church in our sermons. And the focus last week was on what do you do, like how do you know what you want to do with your life? That's got me thinking about all this too. How do you know what you want to do with your life? How do you know, what is the time on this actually? 25 minutes, dang. It's just going to be a long episode. That's how it is. How do you know what you want to do with your life? How do you know where God is calling you? And the distinction that was made, is not, hey guys, pray for me that this happens because I want this to happen in my life, because I feel like this is what I want to do. Rather, it is, hey guys, pray for me that God would reveal to me what He wants me to do with my life. Again, that's the difference between ownership and stewardship. God has given me this life. Now please pray that He would reveal to me what it is He wants me to use it for, in order that my story would be a part of His bigger story and reflect His glory. That is the prayer. That is the thing we do. And so when it says, that you are to wait on the Lord, in any time that we are supposed to have patience in the Bible, all these people had patience. We have to be praying, reading the Word, and being in fellowship with other believers. You just be your family members if you have a strong family. If you don't have a strong immediate family like I do, you have the whole church body. Like I have my strong immediate family and the whole church body that I can go and be a part of. And so no matter who you are, where you come from, you yourself have the entire family of Christ immediately available to you. Despite the sins, despite the church hurt, it's going to happen because we are not Christ. We are actually broken, sinful human beings. This is apologetics. This is defense of the church. We are broken human beings. So don't expect something of perfection out of the people who are congregating in order to worship the God who saves us from our imperfections, from our sin nature that we chose ourselves. We chose that for ourselves. So, that's a lot of expectation and pressure to put on a group of people who are coming together to say, we're not perfect. And that's why we love Jesus, because He died for us, even though He was perfect, because that's how much He loves us. All right, moving on. I will adopt, I will be disciplined, creative, faithful wherever I am. Like I was saying about Paul and Jesus. Jesus was like 30 some years old before he started his testimony or his ministry. And he would intentionally tell people, hey, don't talk about me yet. It's not my time. My time has not come. He said that to his mom quite a few times, Mary. He'd say, look, my time has not yet come. It's not time yet. Like, don't reveal it yet. Come on, keep it on the down low. I'm not ready yet. God's not ready yet. God the Father is not ready. It said that during this time, he was growing in wisdom and in stature. So he was growing in his mind and in his spirit, and he was growing in stature. So his body, his physical body was growing, right? Because he is a human being as well as God. He is both in the same person. He is growing in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. You have two things happening here, the intangible and the tangible, and they're perfectly united. So again, a lot more apologetics, a lot more theology that goes into this, but when we are in a season of waiting, like Jesus was, it is our job to, like he did, continue learning and growing and building our stature, our physical bodies, and growing in our favor with God, then our favor with men. That is our private lives and our public lives. And they come together perfectly. So again, think about it like that. Think about it like the Olympic athletes. We are practicing for years, for months. They said they chose their songs and did their choreography in the springtime. And here we are, wintertime of the next year, and now they're actually doing the dances that they've been working so hard and training so hard for. It's been since last spring. It's been almost an entire year that they've been working on these things. Just to bring it to the stage for 6 minutes, a couple times, over the course of a couple of days. So, here's the part where things get tricky. Compromise. Compromise is your real enemy. Ask me how I know. Because compromise is the spot where we say, I'm doing good. My standard is here. But would it hurt so much if I just chipped off a little bit and the standard fell to here. That's barely a big difference. It's only 2%. In the terms of an immediate 2%, okay, maybe not. But imagine if, as an athlete, you're training for a 6-minute session of time on the ice, a 6-minute dance, and you say, all right, I got to do 6 minutes X times a day for this many numbers of months. It's going to even out to this many total minutes of time. But if you take off 2% of that time, let's say you take off just 1 minute, all right, over 6 times, you've lost an entire session's worth of your practice. 12 times, now you've lost 2 sessions. It goes on and on and on. This is what we call, I guess in this case, it would be, that'd be more like simple interest in the marketing business world, where it's just a fixed rate. It's just fixed. But imagine that builds up over time. And now it's not multiplying on itself, but over time, how many sessions by the end of that year have you lost out on? How much time on the ice have you compromised and given up? And how many of your competitors didn't make that compromise and didn't give up that time? And look at how much better they are going to be compared to you. That's the danger of compromise. That is exactly the same in our faith lives and in our private lives, in our spiritual lives. When we are living in ways that we say, I'm going to... Oh, what's a good example? What is a good example? You know, when we say we're going to do something like skipping the workout, just one time. We're going to cut prayer short, just a little bit. We're not going to study when we know we should. Or maybe we're just excusing mediocrity in our own lives. That integrity dies slowly. That integrity just begins to degrade, and the compromise erodes down who we are and who we're supposed to be. And you become what you repeatedly do. That is what happens. You end up becoming a lesser version of what you could be, of maybe what God is calling you to be, because you say, it's just a minute, of prayer, of workout, of study time. But how much does that compound down the road? So we got to keep going. We got to keep moving. We have to be the kind of people who, when we're tired, we get up in the morning. We get up when we have to. This is hard for me. I will be the first to admit, this is hard for me. These are areas where it does not feel good. And as I approach and as I learn and engage with new levels of difficulty, I find that I have more and more stamina and resilience to build against the toughness. That's just how it is. So the next thing I want you to do, I got to do this. I feel like I need to do this right now just to keep my brain on track. I want you to take pen and paper, literally like a pencil and a literal piece of paper, not your phone. This has to be tangible. You can't just get rid of it easily. It can't get buried under another list of notes. I want this to be in your space in the physical world every day. And write down your standards for yourself. All right? Remember, standards are things that we apply to ourselves. So we might have the external standards. I have to do school. I have to go to work. I have to do these things. They are applied to me. But we can apply them to ourselves. I need to this. I need to that. I want to. I'm going to. Forget want. I am going to do this. I'm going to do that. Because that's internal standard. That's the difference. That is taking an external standard and turning it into an internal standard. I am going to do this because I am choosing to. I am what? Making the choice. Every day. Making the choice. So write them down. Your physical, your spiritual, your mental, and your creative. I know a lot of creative people. And our creativity is expressed in very different ways, which is beautiful. Because imagine if we were all just like musically creative people. The world would be kind of boring. It'd be all music. We wouldn't know any different, but we have math people, we have engineering people, we got artsy people, we have technical people. We have a lot of amazing people that God has made. Look at what a diverse color palette he's painting with, metaphorically speaking. That's amazing. That just is a testament to the goodness and the creativity of our Creator. So we got to write all these down. Again, like I was saying about Jesus, the mental, the spiritual, and the physical are all intrinsically tied together. A lot of religions, especially secular world, I believe in science, not God, that kind of thing tries to say there is no spiritual, or there is spiritual and there is physical. They will say the physical is bad, the spiritual is good. We need to obtain only spiritual. Or they say there is no spiritual, there is only physical, and all that matters is the physical world, but actually nothing matters. Because if you don't have a spiritual purpose, then what's the whole point of this? You're just lacking. You're a ship in the middle of the ocean. How did you even get there? So you need to write all of them down. It's all connected. And I want you to review it daily, every single day, morning and night reset. Get to bed on time so you can wake up on time. Review the stuff before you go to sleep so you know why you're going to sleep. You know why you're skipping out on things you might do otherwise, so that you can get up in time to do this hard stuff that you need to do the next morning, that you say, I'm going to do the next morning. Whether you need to do it or you want to do it, you say, I'm going to do it, because now you're bridging a gap. And remember, God builds men before he builds platforms. You want proof? Go read your Bible. All right. Now, you and I, neither of us probably will ever win an Olympic medal, go viral. Depending on who you are, I'm a lot more likely to do this one than you guys are, but preach on a stage, a lot of those things just aren't going to happen in our lives. They're not realistic inside of our lives. But you can train like an athlete, create like an artist, live like a witness, pray like Daniel, and endure like Paul. You can do all of these things in your life without anyone ever seeing it. And Jesus says, you know what? That's even better. If you go out and you're praying in public for your accolades of men, that's what you get. You have had your reward in full. When you give to people, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give secretly, Your Father in heaven sees these things. You don't need other people to see them. And I'm talking to myself right now, I think, even more than I'm talking to you guys, because I'm the one that's on here making a podcast. When life knocks you down, you get back up. You keep doing these things, even if no one else ever sees them. I got friends, and here's the beauty of this. The people who are going to see them, depending on where you plug yourself in, the people who are going to see them are the people who matter the most. If you're plugged into the church and you're living your private life and you're connected with your church, they're going to see that because you guys are on the same wavelength, You are all attuned to the Holy Spirit. I can literally feel when someone does or does not have the Spirit inside of them when I am around them. And I'll ask people, I've done this more than once because God has given me a sensitivity that can oh so often be prone to anxiety. But in these situations, this is where this gift I have found comes into play, and I can craft and hone this. And this took spiritual discernment. This took prayer and patience to discover. And by the way, a decade of prayer and patience. 2 decades, I take it back, 2 decades of prayer and patience to discover this. That is a gift I have, all right? And it took all that time waiting to find out about it. But I can talk to someone or ask them, be like, are you a Christian, after talking to them for only a little bit? And the answer is yeah. If I ask them, because I feel that there. I feel the presence of God. And I also feel the presence of the dark and the spiritual forces at work against God. And we know these things are true. Go read the Bible. Go read the book of Ephesians about this. Put on the full armor of God. We're fighting principalities, powers of the air, prince of the air, Satan himself and his demons. Our battle's not against flesh and blood. It's against those heavenly spiritual forces that we don't see. But when we are attuned to God, we can feel them, and we know they're there. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this one. I need to go take a nap, my goodness. If you guys enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. I want to get back to doing this more regularly than I have been. If I could do, I don't want to name anything, but if I could do even just once every other week, that would be so good. I would love that. Yeah. So keep being that person that gets back up. Keep being that person who's writing down the things that you are going to do, the goals that you have for yourself, and the external goals. I put myself in school, okay? I'm the one who did that. God showed me the door. I take it back. I'm not the one who did that. It's a two-part equation. God shut all these doors around me and narrowed and funneled me into this path, to this place to learn this thing, because I prayed and I waited on him. And I said, Lord, I want you to show me where this thing is that you want me to do in my life, that's going to be my career, that's going to make my money, that is in turn going to fund this type of thing, making of podcasts, making of music, speaking on stages, the places that I would like to go for you. But I got to start in the trenches. Where do you want me? And so, that's taken a long, long time to figure out. 5 years I've been learning on this entrepreneur business mission, and he's taught me a lot of skills outside of college that now I can take into my college and know, okay, I'm learning business now. That's what I'm doing. This is where he has me. And look actually at how many places this applies to inside of any career that I want to do. Having this skill set will be beneficial for me. And oh, by the way, your job pays for it. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. It's hard though. And it's hard for me to keep that motivation and that attitude. It's hard for me to keep that good attitude every single day. But that's where I have to remember, keep going, keep getting back up. And like I said, my favorite verse in the Bible that we started this out with, Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. I have it right here. I know you can't see it, it's blurry, but I have it right here. It says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And when we do that, when we lean into that, nothing of our own doing, that has nothing to do with us. That verse has nothing to do with what it is we're doing, who we are. That is all on God. That is God saying he's going to do for us. But, it's our choice to lean into that. And so I chose to do that. But sometimes that's hard, man. That's hard. Oh, random thing I almost forgot. Paul was a tent maker. And actually it says in the book of Acts, he stayed with a couple during his missionary travels who were also tent makers. And so for a while, he just helped them in their tent making business between places of ministry and times of ministry. He was just working with his hands. Like he wasn't actively engaged in ministry at all. He needed money to keep feeding himself while he was ministering to people. So he had to take a pause for a little bit of time. And he just let it settle for a little bit until he went back to until he returned to full-time ministry in a season of life. He also got so discouraged after that he stopped doing ministry for a while. He was like, you know what? You Jews, I'm done with you. I'm only going to go talk to the Gentiles. I'm done. I'm just so done. And he left. And God had to say, nah, man, come on. I need you to keep witnessing to them. Don't be afraid of them. Continue, because I'm going to strengthen you. I'm going to help you. I'll uphold you with my righteous right hand. I'll protect you. And these are the truths that we get to live by. Not that we have to live by, but that we get to live by, that are available to us when we decide to align ourselves to side with God. How crazy is that? When we choose to accept what God is giving us, we can then choose to accept what God is giving us, all for our benefit. And all we have to do is make those decisions. That's all we have to do is say yes. What? Because he said yes first. There's a beautiful song about that, by the way. For King and Country, featuring KB. Yes. Oh, it's a Stephen Malcolm song. Stephen Malcolm, For King and Country, KB. Yes, that's the name of the song. He said yes to our pain, our hurt, our broken, all of that. He took it upon himself on the cross. And now, because of that, he gives us a gift, and we get to say yes to receiving the gift that he gives us. Because we did not first love him, he first loved us. And that's the basis for why we should do anything, why we should care about goals, commitment, integrity when no one sees it, training and doing our best. That is why, because that's the mission. Otherwise, there is nothing other than this physical world. We're just that boat floating in the middle of the ocean with no wind. It's a sailboat. We're cooked, literally. We're done. But with God, it gives meaning and purpose, and we see the purpose behind the physical life, not just the spiritual life, because they are one. And then we get some direction. And then we have a compass, a North Star, and we can follow and run that endurance race that is set before us. So now I'll actually wrap it up. I'll leave you guys with that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, like I said a minute ago, subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.